Sketch a graph of y is less than 2/5 x minus 3. This is an inequality that has two variables, x and y. So solutions are going to have x and y values, which means that solutions are going to be points in the xy plane. So whenever we have an inequality in two variables, we're going to be sketching our graphs in the xy plane instead of just on the number line. Now here we have y is less than 2/5 x minus 3. What I want to do first is I want to consider the equation y is equal to 2/5 x minus 3. Now, if this were an equation instead of an inequality, we would know how to graph this. This is already in slope-intercept form, and so we could use the slope and we could use the y-intercept to graph it. If we were to do that, we would start at the y-intercept, which is -3, and then the slope is 2/5, so we'd go up 2 and to the right 5, and then up 2 and to the right 5. We could also go down 2 and to the left 5, and down 2 to the left 5 to get points. But here's the thing. Points on this line, y equals 2/5 x minus 3, are not going to be solutions to the inequality y is less than 2/5 x minus 3, because any point that is a solution to this equation is going to have the y-coordinate equal to 2/5 the x-coordinate minus 3. But for this inequality, we need the y-coordinate to be strictly less than 2/5 x minus 3. So the line is not actually a part of the solution. In fact, it's almost the equivalent of having an open circle when we've got this inequality. But instead of an open circle, what we're going to do is we're going to draw the line, but we're going to draw a dashed line. Because this dashed line is actually the boundary that separates the plane into two parts. So I want to talk about how it separates the plane. So there are two different inequalities that we could be looking at here. We could be looking at y is less than 2/5 x minus 3, which is what we're looking at. Or we could be looking at y is greater than 2/5 x minus 3. Now, when we had x was less than a number, if we had x is less than something, that meant we shaded to the left. And if we had x is greater than something, that means we shaded to the right. But now we have y is less than some quantity. And I want to ask, where do we find smaller y values? Now, y is the vertical axis, and if you look at the vertical axis, as you go up, the numbers get bigger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And as you go down, the numbers get smaller, -1, -2, -3, -4, etc. So in a situation where we have y is less than a number, we actually are going downward. We should be shading downward. And if we were to have y is greater than some quantity, we would be shading upward. Now I want to bring this back to the problem that we're looking at. The inequality that we're given is y is less than 2/5 x minus 3. And we know that when y is less than something, we want smaller values of y, which means we're shading below. And so I am going to suggest that all of the points below this line that we've drawn are solutions to this inequality. And so I'm going to shade in that whole half of the plane, everything below that line. And it's going to take me a moment because I want to kind of do this nicely. Not that my squiggles are perfect by any means, but I really want to shade in as much of that area as I can. So this bottom part that we've shaded in is the part that represents y is less than 2/5 x minus 3, because this represents the part of the plane where the y-coordinate is actually less than 2/5 x minus 3. Because this line tells us where the y-coordinate is equal to 2/5 x minus 3, but if we want the y-coordinate to be lower, we need to go lower down. If it had been y is greater than 2/5 x minus 3, that would correspond to the top half. And I'm going to do that in another color because it's separate from what we're doing. Y is greater than 2/5 x minus 3 would be everything up above in the top part. When we have an inequality in two variables, like this one, if we look at the corresponding equation, that gives us a line, and that line splits the plane into two halves. The part that's above that line is the part where y is greater than whatever the expression is, and the part below that line is the part where y is less than whatever the expression is. So because we want to have y is less than 2/5 x minus 3, we are shading below, and so the shaded region is the graph that we want.